Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien sitting in for Paul Harvey this morning, Saturday, July 17th, 2021. And stand by for commentary. Well, if Mr. Harvey were alive today, he would do this commentary on what's going on with the U.S. government. And I'll label it USA versus COVID and President Biden's inability to look at the problem. President Biden has got a mountain of issues, COVID-19 being one of the more pressing ones. Now, on COVID-19, both him and former President Trump did not know what they're doing with this, okay? They're saying, oh yeah, we got it made with the vaccines. Now all we have to do is get 100% vaccination. But do you understand why you're not even getting 70% vaccination, President Biden? And this is not an anti-presidential thing I'm doing here. This is to explain to you what your problem is. As a favorite alien from another planet. My race has explored 4% of what you call the Milky Way galaxy. Only 4%. And in that 4%, we've encountered a little over 2,000 sentient races, both humanoid and non-humanoid. Some good, some bad. But they all have the same issues that applies to you. They all need tag. In your case, it's trust American people and government. Here it's called tag, which you don't have neither trust, the American people have no trust in you, and the government is supplying no trust to them. Every civilization that we have encountered, and there are some good ones and some bad ones, have the same issues. The good ones or the bad ones. Dissension and distrust of government. A good civilization, like ours and others included, we have in our civilization a 3% dissension rate and a 5% mistrust in government. Okay? And the dissension rate, being less than the mistrust in government is good. And keep it at 5%. Because we can work with that 5% and somehow cause the trust and the dissension to go down. Some years it goes down, some years it goes up, but never above 5 or never above 3. Your problem, President Biden, is that you have probably a 20% mistrust of government and a 30% dissension, where you don't even care about the government anymore. You want something else. And that's the problem. It's hard to get your society back. And then you're trying to fight a pathogen that's been artificially created, not like your other pathogens. And you also got climate change to boot, because you're polluting your planet to hell. And you're doing absolutely nothing for it. To give you an analogy, your government is like Constantine the 11th. Remember, Emperor Constantine established Constantinople in 313 AD, built it in 330, and over 1100 years, his namesake, Constantine the 11th, came to power in 1449. And he had no choice but to accept what was given to him, a defensive war. And that's what you got here. You've never been on the offense with this virus. You always fought a defensive war. And he thought that the walls of Constantinople were going to withstand that. Same as you're thinking that your mask, lockdowns, and vaccines, which are stopgap measures, the same as the wall for Constantinople was, a stopgap measure, is going to stop COVID-19. COVID-19 is here to stay unless you mitigate it to a certain level that you can survive with it. And you don't understand that. You don't comprehend that. And this is the problem you're having. You're forcing your citizens to get the vaccine even though they don't want it. You haven't given them any other reason to get the vaccine, like say, oh, President Biden over here is pushing this initiative to fight back against COVID-19. You haven't done it all. You've spent trillions of dollars for nothing here. Because in the long run, it's coming back to bite you in the derriere. If you would have started, and President Trump would have started, with at least $100 billion, $200 billion of those trillions of dollars that you spent to mitigate the atmosphere of the virus and build plants to mitigate the atmosphere of pollutants and other virus. It's going to take you years and a couple of decades. But by 2050, you would have had this all sewn up. Your virus problem would have been gone. But hell, you haven't even started on that. Now, you got the Delta variant out there. First you had the UK variant, then you had the South African variant before that, now you got the Delta variant. And you have more, because at the end of this, history recalls you have 256 variants, and they take you down. And the problem you're having is the variant, the Delta variant, is acting like Mahmud II of the Turks, who had put you guys in a siege in Constantinople. This is what the virus, COVID-19, is doing, is put you in a siege mentality, okay? And what happened in history, remember, 1449, and, well, 4 years later, the walls fell. And why? Because Mahmud II had all these things. Well, this is not working, the walls are still there. What else do we got down the pike that's still in developmental stage? Oh, what you would call later a cannon. Hey, maybe this will breach the wall and we can get in there and really get them. Well, he took his still under development experimental cannon and punctured a big hole through Constantinople's wall. And this is what COVID-19 is doing, whether it's a Delta variant or a variant that comes after him. He's going to puncture walls on your defenses, which are not great. They're worse than the Constantinople wall. Your vaccines, and only 2 of those are good. Johnson & Johnson is a, question mark on that. But Pfizer and Moderna are holding their own just barely for the moment. But you're acting like Constantine the 11th. Oh, we got it made here. For as long as we can hang in there, Mahmud II was going to give up and go. He didn't have that attitude. Same with COVID-19. He's here to stay. And you haven't gone up there and say, okay, they got to put at least $100 billion, maybe $1 trillion worldwide, and build plants and, have helicopters going in the cities, build specially operated air purifiers to catch this virus and other pollutants that are 0.3 microns and get them out of the air. Then you got to decide what you're going to do with them after you get them off the air. But that's a different story. Like I said, President Biden, and you're not listening to me, it's like what Dr. Gorgas had to do in the Panama Canal. He had to use the technology he had available to mitigate a threat that didn't have any vaccine to it. Yellow fever didn't have any cure to it. But he had to mitigate it in order to build the canal at the least amount of deaths. You have to mitigate this to get at least some trust back into your government. And you don't have that. Because you are asking for American people's faith without giving them trust of any kind. And like President Lincoln will tell you, without trust and faith, a government cannot survive. Sitting in for Paul Harvey. This is your favorite alien. Good day.